everybody's okay. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to begin to wrap up. And for those of you who weren't here before, and that I think includes 2 of you, I'm going to do a brief overview of why we taught this course and to tell you that we don't have everything on anger in these few classes. It would be impossible because Rebbe Nachman spoke about it so much because it's so vitally important to work on transforming this trait. But the first thing we have to do is recognize what anger is. And for women, that isn't always easy because women don't always scream and yell. And I just lost the conference, didn't I? That's really strange. Okay, I don't know what happened. Women don't always scream and yell. Sometimes we turn anger inwards. Sometimes we subversively express our anger, okay, what we call the passive aggressive or the silent treatment or whatever. And it's important to realize what our anger is. And it's also important to realize that anger is never justified. We're being tested again with the noise. And I want to tell you that when we learn Rebbe Nachman's teachings, we will be tested in whatever we're concentrating on. And I can just about promise you that for this past 6 weeks, I have been tested on the subject of anger, something that I have tried very hard in my lifetime to work on. And I see I have more work to do. So we all have more work to do, probably. Okay. So we're going to, tonight, we went through the Aleph Base book. We did the pillars, the anger section in the pillars of Breslov, Life of a Breslover. We did a few lessons in Likutei Moharan. And tonight I want to go over some of the points in the advice book and finish up with one piece of a lesson, Torah 66. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay, so in the advice book, there are 10 entries on kas, anger. The first one is we must break the force of anger with love. And the Rebbe doesn't use gentle words. He doesn't say we should, I used the word transform before. That's not really what he says. He says break it. Sometimes a frontal attack is called for. If you're in a war and you're in a war with seriously bad people, okay, you're not going to call in a mediator, okay? You're going to try to strong arm them. If you're in discussions, you're going to try to pressure them in discussions. And if you're in a physical war, you're not going to say, oh, no, let's try to work this out. You're going to defend yourself and, if necessary, go on the offensive. With anger, the best approach is to grab a hold and be angry about your anger. Grab a hold of it and go on the offensive, okay? And really work on banishing the anger. Now, I spoke before about transforming anger. That's correct. We should work on it. But the frontal approach in this case that the Rebbe is speaking about is to break it. And he wants us to break it to ensure that we don't do anything unkind to anyone, because that leaves a permanent blemish. It's very hard to do tshuva once the anger has left us. Okay, does everybody understand? Sandy will be back again. I'm sure she's just having the same phone problem she always has. I'm assuming Devorah and Shalomit Michal, you get this, okay? So he says that we should make a special effort when we're angry with someone to be even nicer to the person we're angry with, because that is going to break our anger, okay? This is really fascinating because popular advice, common sense advice would be somebody makes you angry, try to avoid them, take a deep breath, so on and so forth. But here the Rebbe's saying, no, Go out of your way to be nice to them. Sweeten your anger. How is this possible? How can we do this? Nothing the Rebbe tells us is impossible. And if we take these lessons as something to only think about or reflect on or pray about, which is good, that's all good things to do, but we stop short of following through, okay, then we haven't completed the lesson. Rebbe Nachman's way was to always go, his way was to always go, to tell people to go with the lesson for a while, okay? Take a lesson, take it in, soak it in, work on it, learn it, relearn it, daven about the lesson, okay? Read all the commentary on the lesson, discuss it with whoever you want to discuss it for, and then, okay, and then make that lesson real for you, okay? So in this case, hold on one second. In this case, this advice is very practical. Go out there next time you're angry with someone and go out of your way to be kind to them. Now, will it change them? Sometimes. Sometimes if somebody's rude to you or mean to you, your being kind to them will change them, and sometimes it won't, okay? Because this isn't a magic bullet. That's not the point of this. The point of sweetening our anger, okay, is multifold. The first thing is when we sweeten our anger, okay, it literally feels like an injection to get rid of it. It's like a vaccination. It wipes it out, okay, because we've attacked it with sweetness. We are able to then benefit more from the teachings of the tzaddik. Okay, the Rebbe tells us this. And you're going to be able to begin to understand the tachlis, the point of life, the purpose of life. This is what the Rebbe is telling us. You want to have a connection with the tzaddik? You want to know the purpose of life? Work on your anger. Okay? And what people don't often realize is that we're so busy with so many things in Breslov, okay, that anger, okay, anger is the one thing we really don't want to work on. Nobody really wants to work on it. I'll tell you why in a minute. But the Rebbe speaks about it everywhere. Now, tonight, I wanted to read part of one of the stories, not just Sipuri Masios, but also the shorter stories this semester. And I had some ideas about what I wanted to do. And I started to review them all. Actually, I started last week, and I finished it up this afternoon. And I realized that anger is mentioned, or it comes to be a factor in almost every story. And that's very timely, because anger has a lot to do with what? What's coming up next week? Purim, okay? In the Purim story, okay, Haman's jealousy leads him to become angry. This is something that's very valuable to us to pay attention to, okay? And Kapsin Pasha is one of the short stories. I don't know. I hope everybody's familiar with it. I'm not going to say it tonight because I really want to get through the material we have set aside here. But it's a story about a Turkish aide or important influencer of the Pasha, the Turkish king. And he is very, very jealous of a Jew who's the king's courtier. And he schemes and he scams and he does all kinds of things to try to usurp the Jew and even get him killed. And in the end, we know what happens, okay? It's like the Purim story, all right? So what's going on here is that as we wrap this up, okay, we're supposed to be done with the semester actually 2 weeks ago. We were supposed to be done with the semester. And then we had problems with using a lot of new technology now, and we needed to push back the start date for the semester for 2 weeks. And whenever we do that, we all know that there's a reason. And as I was preparing, I knew what I wanted to discuss tonight, but as I was preparing, I was thinking, of course, Purim. There's a lesson for all of us in this Purim story. Okay, so we know about, we talked about just now sweetening the anger, and in that way, that's when we're able to benefit from the tzaddik, and we're also able to begin to understand the tachlis, okay, the goal and purpose of everything. And the Rebbe says we will also be able to experience the delight of Olam Haba in this world, and we're going to be able to really connect with the piece of ourselves and express the piece of ourselves that's connected with the tzaddik. Mordechai was also a tzaddik, okay? And what we have here in the Purim story, okay, in the Purim history, is we have a perfect example. We have an example of a lot of things, but a perfect example of how unrestrained and ill thought out anger, again triggered by Haman's jealousy, nearly destroyed us, the Jewish people, and of course in the end destroyed Haman. Now, we know that Haman and Amalek, right, are the same force. They're the same spiritual force. They have the same source. And it's quite telling that Amalek, we often express today something inside ourselves, okay? We want to conquer the Amalek within. We could also think we want to conquer this Haman within. Haman, again, is the embodiment of jealousy leading to anger. So what is this point? How can that have anything to do with us? Okay, sometimes you lose your temper. What does that have to do with a Haman that we want to banish? Because Haman didn't make his bodhisattva, guys. He didn't examine himself, okay? He only wanted to take. He never looked in the mirror. That's why he didn't even realize that his jealousy was unjust, because he wanted something that wasn't his. Okay, he wanted Mordechai's place, essentially. Okay, and he hated the Jews. I mean, that was a biggie. He just hated us. And he was angry. So this is a lesson for us in how to not go through life. The unexamined life is the worst life there is. The examined life is hard. I'm not going to say that it's not hard, but it's the best life there is. Because when we examine ourselves and when we think about our motives, and really a real deal here, I'm not talking about saying, oh, it's okay, I need to be softer on myself, but really, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I need to really examine my motives, and I need to get in the habit of examining my motives, because I want to crush, like the Rebbe said. He says he wants to break that anger. Break that anger. He doesn't say tiptoe around it. Smash it. And we want to crush that anger within us as well. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue with that first point. It ends with what I spoke about how our understanding and experience of the delight that's awaiting us is based on the type of connection we have with the tzaddik, the root source we have. But he continues in base, in number 2, that when we break this force of anger with love, with kindness, we do something beyond ourselves. The Rebbe tells us that the true tzaddikim receive honor. They receive the honor that's due them, and they are able to express their greatness, and the world finds a true leader. Okay, we're going to end up with that tonight, but I just want to plant that seed here. Okay, and what is a true leader? So the Rebbe tells us a true leader embodies the opposite of anger. So listen up. A person who is going to have mercy. He's going to pity the world. He's going to understand. It's hard for us. It's really hard. And he's going to show us this compassion. And he's going to help each of us, okay, find our individual tachlis, our individual purpose and goal. Because even if there's an overarching goal, Rebbe Nachman has such a deep connection with each of us, such an understanding, that he reminds us, I know you're unique. I know you're unique. I know you are an individual. You don't have to be a clone of anyone else. You don't have to dress like anyone else. You don't have to be a robot. Okay? Yes, there's halachas and you have to follow them. But within that beautiful path that we walk down of halacha, you can express it your way, because your way, your potential is why you're here, to live up to your potential of expressing your service of Hashem. And when we are able to really, again, to crush our anger, like I said before, as if it's a war, this isn't tiptoe time, and just force ourselves to be kind, even when we're angry, even when the anger seems justified, because that's the biggest trick. When we're able to do that, we make space for the tzaddik in our lives. Okay? I know, like you saw in the beginning when the noise started kicking in again tonight, I was miffed, but I was happy, because last week was a real teaching moment for me. It was really wonderful. I reflected on it all week long. And by my second Hisbodedus after that noisy disruption to Torah, we're learning Torah, how can I have noise? I somehow was able to dance for joy. Okay? Hashem disrupted for a reason. It wasn't a disruption. It's only eruption. It's not even eruption. It's only a thing. It only happens for a reason, even if we don't know the reason. Hopefully, we'll reflect and we'll find the reason. Okay, excuse me, I'm going to have a sip of tea. My throat's a little. Okay, now I'm going to move on to some of the other ones. I really want to see if we can get through this tonight, because we don't have a next week for this class for anger because of Purim, and then the semester's over when we're preparing for Pesach. So are there any questions, or should I just go ahead? I don't see any typing. I'm going to go ahead. Okay. The next one is, and this is something we covered before, it's worth summing up again. Anger and unkindness, okay, remember they go hand in hand, come about when people's understanding is limited, when we don't have das, when we don't have holy awareness of Hashem, and especially when we don't have Torah. Because if we don't have Torah, then we're going to have an anger problem, not a question. Because that's the only logical response to many of the things in this world. Because we feel frustrated because we can't change things. Okay? But that's not the point. The point is if we have das, we know we're supposed to be changing ourselves. That's really tikkun olam. That's tikkun olam. Work on the olam that is you and me. Okay. The deeper our understanding, the more anger disappears, and kindness and love and peace will spread around. Now, this is why the Torah, the study of Torah, which deepens the understanding, brings love and peace into the world and banishes anger. Okay. The Rebbe then goes on to speak about the mikveh. Okay, and he's probably referring to men immersing each day in the mikveh, or at least once a week, depending where you live. Okay, for a man. Because immersing in a mikveh changes us spiritually. Okay, we're going to skip that, because even if it's not just a man, it's a complicated topic, and I want to get through. And the next one is really important because we spoke about Haman and we spoke about Amalek. And now we're going to speak about Esav, who's also called Edom, the red one. Red connotes anger, passion, fire. Okay. Esav was born hairy and red. Okay. Remember that Rivka told Yaakov to put the goat skin on his arms so that when he went to Yitzchak, hold on one second, when he went to Yitzchak, that he would fool Yitzchak. That's because Esau was hairy, okay, and red, okay. And that's another aspect of the Yetzer Hara that we have to get rid of inside of us. That's a passionate anger. That's an anger. We know Esau was essentially like a murderer. We know that, okay. All right, we're going to continue. When a person gives way to anger, it stirs up the great accuser. Okay, Esav or Edom is going to attack us, God forbid. This accuser in the upper world is the source of a flurry of accusers and enemies who come down and take charge of this angry man. Now listen to this. The Esav persona, the angry person, puts wisdom to flight. And the image of God disappears from his face. And he no longer has the face of a man. If anybody has ever gotten angry or seen someone angry, okay, you want to shock yourself out of anger, go look in the mirror while you're angry. Your face is no longer the face of a human being. You will lose, okay, the image of Hashem from your face. We know that a human being is created in Hashem's image, right? We don't want to lose that. Anger is the thing that makes us lose that. And when somebody loses the image of Hashem from their face, okay, he's in the power of his enemies. Because, why? Because people aren't afraid of animals. Okay, I'm not talking about tigers and lions and bears, but they're not afraid of, like, you know, a dumb animal, okay? They're more afraid of people. And if we turn ourselves into a beast with our anger, okay, then the accusers attack. The spiritual negative forces attack. Most of them come from inside. That's the truth, okay? Because that's when our head makes crazy thoughts in our head. And we begin to justify and more justify and more justify, okay? Like Kapsan Pasha that I mentioned before. Okay, that's why eventually he fell. And like Haman, eventually he fell. Okay. All right. Now, the Rebbe says something that we're going to take in a special way. He says that the remedy for anger is to fast. And in fact, he says the main value in fasting is lies in this. And when you know how you get short-tempered when you fast if your blood sugar's low? That's not your blood sugar. That's the Yetzer Hara, because he wants to ruin the benefit of the fast. That's what's happening. Okay, so next time we have a fast coming up. We have Tanis Esther before Purim. Okay, no eating or drinking from pre-dawn, right before dawn. You have to look up the time. You can go to My Zmanim. They have all the times. Halachic dawn. Okay, no fasting from then until sundown. Right? We fast. No eating or drinking. Okay, not no fasting. No eating or drinking. So what happens? We get irritable. Rebbe's telling us, no. It's not the physiological thing. It's a Yetzer Hara. He wants to ruin your fast. Now, it may be the Yetzer Hara may be taking the form of low blood sugar, but you can fight that. Okay, prepare. Now, I want to tell you something really interesting. We fast for tshuva. We fast for a few reasons. One of the reasons we fast for tshuva. Nothing ruins tshuva more than anger. Nothing. So don't waste your fast. Okay, next. We have something that, okay, there's more in there, but we're not going to go there, except just to say that the Rebbe says the whole point of the fast is to actually to work on your anger, to subdue your anger. However, something higher than a fast. Does anybody know what's higher than a fast? I know you know. If you learn Breslov, you know. Come on, somebody. Okay, I can't remember, but that's okay. Shabbos eating on Shabbat is higher than a fast. Eating on Shabbat accomplishes way more than fasting. Okay, as a matter of fact, the Rebbe says that through eating on Shabbos, anger is crushed. How is that possible? So there is a spiritual process that's very hard to really understand unless you have access to Kabbalah and so on and so forth. But there's also a very simple process. On Shabbos, okay, we eat. Okay, the food's delicious, but we're eating for Hashem. We're eating because it's a mitzvah to eat. Even if during the week we rush through our brachas before we eat and after we eat, on Shabbos, we're more careful. Okay, nobody rushes through them on Shabbos. Really, I've never seen anybody do that. I mean, it may happen, but that would be the exception that breaks the rule. We're eating with Hashem in mind. We're having leisurely meals at a table and singing while we eat. And the food has a special taste. We know that. Okay, it's the time of Shabbos. It's the flavor of Shabbos. And what happens is we have a semblance, which I've spoken about before, of Olam Haba. Okay, we have a little slice of Olam Haba. And this little slice of Olam Haba destroys anger. Because Olam Haba is complete acceptance, joy, and delight in Hashem. We're basking in Hashem's light. Shabbos is a little piece of that. Okay? All right. Questions? Okay, we're going to skip the next one because we actually went in depth about money, right? Okay. If we have time at the end, I'll come back to it. Okay. Here's what we spoke a little bit about this in the beginning. So this is really, for me, the main point of working on anger. This is the main motivation. My personal main motivation is this. This is what gets me excited about working on anger. When a person fights his anger and breaks it, okay, the spirit of Moshiach is pulled into the world, okay? Because when a person breaks his anger, it's such a great accomplishment. If you want to feel empowered, don't climb Mount Everest. Break your anger. Break your anger. When you do this, you are given a kind of credit that through you, the world and all that's in it came into being. The world was created for you in that moment in time. Don't dismiss it. Don't say, okay, so I worked through it and I didn't get angry. Give yourself a pat on the back for real. It's a very big achievement, okay? Especially if you're somebody who's habitually annoyed. It's a very big achievement, okay? I have an old friend whose sense of humor is very sharp. She's very funny, and I enjoy listening to her. But her humor used to be an expression of her irritability and anger at everything that was wrong in the world as she saw it. And I can't say she wasn't funny. She was very funny. And somebody, and it wasn't me, which I'm happy about, pointed out to her that they said to her, "You're blocking Moshiach." And guess what? Her whole sense of humor has completely changed. I think she lost her identity for a while. Now she's got it back in spades, and it's fantastic. Okay. When we do that, when we are really breaking our anger and we're creating this powerful, powerful explosion of positivity, we become worthy of tremendous brachas. Okay? So if you want a personal motivation, work on your anger, get some blessings. And we'll also be able to, and this is really beautiful, we'll be able to daven better when you're not angry. And when you manage to break your anger, something opens up inside you. You're closer to Hashem, because Hashem doesn't want you to be angry with his people. And you're able to, when you daven, speak to Hashem directly without caring who admires you, who respects you. Okay? It's really hard for people, because it's very nice to be admired and respected. But we need to break that, because that's part of the attachment of anger. Because anger is very often because we don't feel we're respected, and we don't feel we're admired, and we don't feel honored. This breaks it. When that is broken, we don't care what other people think of us. We're able to have a relationship with Hashem of greater depth, and we're able to pull Moshiach into this world. I want to put a caveat in that. That doesn't mean that we don't care what people think, we want to hurt them or anything like that. It means we want people, we want to help people. We want them to like us, of course. We like them, and so on and so forth. But we're not starved for them, their admiration or their approval, and so on and so forth. Because if you are, it's very hard to daven to Hashem. Everything becomes about how people see you, okay, instead of how you see Hashem and how Hashem sees you. Okay. All right. Everything, we have to accomplish so much in our lives. We have to say so many holy words of Torah. We have to accomplish so many mitzvahs in our lives. And anger's a block to that. So when we can get rid of the anger, we're able to go back to doing the mitzvahs we need to do. Okay. The last one is, okay, through the holiness of Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land of Israel, it's possible to break 3 things, okay? And it's possible to break them completely. Not only cost, anger, but also depression and also laziness. These 3 things go hand in hand, okay? We can figure it out for ourselves. It's good fodder for Hisbodedus and personal reflection. But we know that anger and depression are one often triggers the other, okay? And laziness, especially spiritual laziness, slothfulness is a better word, comes from this feeling that, I'm depressed, everything's such a bother, okay? So when we break those 3 things, okay, we break them through this force, this energy of the Holy Land. And coming literally to Israel can help you break your anger. Now, anybody who's been to Israel and seen Israelis drive or been in a line somewhere with Israelis knows that Israelis often, surprisingly enough, seem to have hot tempers. What's that about? Okay, they're in Israel, but they're not tapping into the power, because plenty of people don't have that response. Israelis are very prickly on the outside, as we know. Okay, so tapping into the land of Israel, because the truth is going to Israel is going to change you. If you step foot in the land, it's going to change you. Okay, but as to whether you can assimilate that change and express it and live it, that's a whole other level. You need to think about it. You know, we can't just go there and say, okay, now I'm perfect. It doesn't happen. Okay. He says, though, that when you achieve this concept, this idea of the Kedusha of Israel, what happens is that you can really become tranquil, which is the title of this class, Achieve Tranquility. You can have this tranquility, and you won't be angry or upset with anyone no matter what they've done to you. That seems like a tall order, but this is part of the Moshiach consciousness that the Rebbe is talking about. Because once we understand that everything comes from Hashem, even the actions by people, even that they look directly, specifically to annoy us or to hurt us, God forbid, this is also from Hashem. And what we have to understand is we can respond. We don't have to take abuse, but at the same time, it's not going to help us to become angry. It doesn't work to become angry because the victim of our anger, the primary victim, is ourselves. We don't want that. We don't want to be victims. Okay, we want to take charge. All right, now, questions, comments? Had a lot. The last two classes have been small, but I notice a lot of people are watching the videos online later. I know that there's some classes live tonight, in person tonight in a few places. So I'm assuming that's some of it last week also. All right, we have a few minutes. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to follow up with something, unless you want to speak, and tell you that this Wednesday night, if you're in New York, who am I going to see there? I know I'm going to see, hopefully, Simcha Yael, maybe Shalomit Michal. It's in the city, so I don't know if you can get there. We're going to have, at the Boma Shul, another night of Breslov in Manhattan. They're putting out a sushi buffet, and we're going to have men and women for the buffet, and then afterwards we're going to split into two groups. Reb Yossi Katz is going to teach a Zamra, and I'm going to teach relationships by the light of a Zamra. Okay? I'm going to teach a Zamra throughout the whole 4 weeks. Well, it's only 3 more weeks left. And Yossi is going to teach 3 lessons in Hasidus, and we're going to tape them so everybody will be able to hear everything, so don't worry. And I want to tell you that hopefully before Pesach, we'll have at least 1 or 2 special workshops for you, like we do every year. That's the plan at any rate. And next week is Purim, and it's a time of great joy. And I just want to tell people that everything in Purim can turn upside down in a minute for the good. That's one of the special qualities of Purim. And if we can take that lesson that we discussed in the beginning about Haman and banishing the Haman inside, the jealous, is for many people, jealousy is really what triggers anger. Okay. Some people don't even recognize that they're angry or recognize that they're jealous. It's just this uncomfortable feeling. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to really purge ourselves of the Haman, embrace the Mordechai, and embrace Esther, as well as not tell the difference between Mordechai and Esther, but between Mordechai and Haman. And that actually means, okay, that we understand exactly what this whole lesson is. All these lessons are. Everything comes from Hashem, even Haman. Even Haman is from Hashem. Even Haman has a lesson for us. How is that possible? But he does. And the lesson is, okay, is that Hashem is always with us. And as long as we're willing to do the work on ourselves, we're privy to a greater and greater closeness to the tzaddik, as Rebbe Nachman tells us, and to Hashem. And it doesn't take that much. And on Purim, we can accomplish with joy what other times of the year takes a lot more suffering. So we want to be very joyful. We have to be joyful on Purim, no matter what. Wherever you find yourself, if your situation isn't what you want it to be, if it isn't ideal, if it isn't what you envision for yourself, embrace what it is. Let go of any anger, residual anger you may have, or frustration even, or even annoyance that it's not what you wanted, and embrace whatever Hashem is giving to you with joy. And we will be, God willing, able to draw down more of that Moshiach energy and hopefully see Moshiach in our days. Amen. Okay. So it's been a lot of interesting times in the anger course. I have to say, everybody, I benefited more than any of you from it. I really did. I really worked on it. And I hope you got some benefit out of it as well. And I'd like to say have a great week and a happy Purim to you. Take care, everyone. That's strange. Nobody's talking. Uh-oh. Something must be wrong with the class. Okay. Let's see. I'm having problems with my computer here.